Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to Ladies Power Lunch. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Our special guest for our Ladies Power Lunch monthly networking meeting today is Lisa Dickman, and she is going to be sharing with us some just amazing concepts that we can use to make our businesses unbreakable. We can use these concepts to build our businesses better, transform our businesses, and as we're doing that, transform the lives of the folks that we're here to serve. So Lisa, I hand over to you. It's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I am super excited to be here with you all. Thank you for having me. And Dr. Davia was talking about the retreat we were at last week, and I got to leave a lot earlier yesterday than you did. So I'm super impressed you're here. But when I left yesterday, I punched home in my GPS and I just started following it, right? I turned right, then I turned left, and I started noticing there were a lot of turns to get to the highway. And before I knew it, I was going through like a subdivision and then a trailer park, and it kept turning me right and left. And by the time I figured out something was off, I was pretty darn disoriented. And I had just been following the turn by turn directions. Like I tried to zoom out and figure out where I was. And by that point, it just didn't make any sense to do anything but continue to follow the thing that I thought was wrong. It asked me to turn at a stop sign that didn't exist. I finally got to the highway and it didn't tell me to get on it. So, basically my GPS just went completely nuts. But what it made me think of was how often I don't follow my own internal guidance. So how often I give away my power to some expert or some other guidance system that I think is going to know what I should do. Like, has anyone ever done that? Has anyone ever succeeded their power to other experts? And I for sure have done that in my business. When I was first building my business, I hired a rather expensive marketing coach that I was entirely unready for, was entirely not ready for, thousands and thousands of dollars. And I got what I needed out of it in the end, which was realizing I wasn't ready for that and I needed to follow my own way. And so that's what I want to help you do today, is tune into that internal guidance system, because what I know for sure is that we all have that. We all have that deep knowing that source or God or the universe or divine consciousness has placed within us. And it's really easy in a loud world to tune into sources outside of ourselves, right? To listen to the experts, to do what we should do or follow what we think we should do. And that internal guidance system that we all have, the waypoints are our interests, our desires, and our innate abilities. And those are the signs pointing the way to a more potent and powerful business. And that is true whether you are the leader of a company, whether you are a solopreneur, whether you are a valued employee in a company. Making your business more personal makes it more powerful because you are the expert on you. So a few years ago, when I started trying to tune into my business and what it wanted to be, what came to me was Africa. And I love Africa. I've been blessed to go 5 times to South Africa, and it's been absolutely amazing. I can truly say that when I landed on the ground there in South Africa, I felt a sense of homecoming to a place I had never been before. That when I was on game drive on safari in the wild of north of Durban in this place called Pinda Private Game Reserve, everything just made sense in a way it doesn't back home. It was so clear to see what was real and what was not real. This life and death struggle in front of me, this impala and this cheetah right here in front of me, that's real. The monkey mind worrying about what my daughter-in-law might think of what I'm doing, or should I invite her, or should we not, or should, not so real. And being in that place just helped me be very clear, very present, and very open to the magic. I was able to receive signs from the animals that helped me and guided me during some really challenging times in my life. After my mother died or her brother died, the messages I got from the animals of love and support really helped sustain me. And so I tune in, I get this message, Africa, that's all I hear. So I start talking to other people, and what they said is, you should go back to Africa right now. I had already been 5 times. I could go back anytime I wanted, really. So that didn't feel aligned to me. What felt aligned to me was bringing the magic of Africa home inside of me. To live in that space where I knew what was real, what is not real. I was open to the signs and serendipities. I knew the magic this universe had to offer on a daily basis. So I followed that instinct. And the first thing it felt like doing was an art project. I did a 100-day project called Lessons from Lions. And for 100 days, I looked into what I might learn from the energy, presence, or experience I had had with lions. And I had 100 pictures I had taken. I've taken way more than 100 pictures. I have a lot of pictures of Africa and African animals. But the first step was not some external thing, and it wasn't actually strictly business related. It was following the interest in Africa. I put up lion photos on my frame television in my living room, so that every 10 minutes there's a giant lion photo that flashes there's a new photo. And I was just trying to live in that energy of what is real, what is not real. Flash forward about a year, and that project and this knowing has helped me launch my first international retreat to Africa, and helped me step out in a big way, right? So that what this desire did was create a big vision for me. It created the sense of, I want to be the person who is able to go to Africa several times a year. I want to be the person who takes other people and helps them see the way I see the animals and the land and the primal nature of the place and the transformative power of that place. And that big vision helped drive me to up-level my business so that I could offer this retreat. But there are also other ways that our interests and desires can help drive us. So for example, I have a friend who is called the spiritual accountress, and she has married her interest. So for the first one was desire, and that's my desire to have this big vision for Africa. And the next idea is interest, right? And the spiritual accountant married her love of astrology and her knowledge as a CPA. So she offers these amazing programs that are packages that give you both the magical and the practical. And it sounds like several others of you on here might also do the same thing. So then there's interest. And then the third way is just your innate abilities. So for example, my mom was an excellent gift giver. She was just really good at seeing who you were and somehow manifesting that in like a physical thing she could find to give you that would be perfect for you and support you. And at the time, she was the director of managed care for Aetna Home Health. She had a pretty big staff. I believe there were quite a lot of people. And she loved giving her staff gifts. And she created the most loyal following, the people who wanted to work for her because they felt seen and heard and understood. But that was an innate ability of hers. Nobody said, okay, leadership wise, you should give your people gifts, because that was specific to her. That's something she's good at, something that's her innate ability, and something that's in her caring nature that lit her up to support them, and in turn lit them up. And so these are all very personal ways that you can use your interests, desires, and innate abilities as kind of signposts to making your business more potent and powerful. So if you have a piece of paper around you, let's get that out. And if Davia, you can give me a time marker, because I forgot to start my timer. Okay, so I'm just going to ask a few questions and have you jot down a few quick ideas. So first is under the category of interest. What would you say your interests are? And we might call those hobbies. We might call those hobbies, but really our society sort of diminishes the word hobby sometimes. So if that word doesn't work for you, say interests. It could be, so for me, in addition to Africa, I love hot springs. I love traveling. I love archaeology and ancient history. So don't try to make it make sense, just anything you're interested. Write the list as quick as you can. Any hobbies, any interests, nothing is out of bounds. Singing, you might like singing or dancing. And then the next one is desires. So what do you desire? Do you desire to travel more? Do you desire to have a feeling of ease? Do you have a desire for more fun? What do you desire? And again, try not to think too much. Just write down what pops into your head. There's no wrong answer. It's all correct. And then the third category is your innate abilities or strengths. So maybe like my mom, you're a really caring person, or you see people really clearly. Maybe you know that you are a natural born leader. Maybe like someone here, collaboration is a gift of yours. But these are more things that are, and maybe if you know human design, some of the elements of your human design might come into play. Some of the things that are innately you. And they don't have to be super deep. It could be anything that pops to mind. It can be that you're good at hosting parties. Like, for example, I'm a good host. I like taking care of people. Maybe you're a storyteller. I know several people here who are storytellers. And then the last question is just look around this group or people who you know who are in Ladies Power Lunch that may not be here on this call, and what characteristics, desires, or interests do you see in them that you might want to claim for your own? Because there are a lot of amazing people in this group. And one of the ways we can see ourselves is by one of the ways we can see our desires by noticing what we admire in others. Will share personally that I would certainly like to rise in my money power. And I see that very clearly. And that inspires me. If you just take a moment and finish up. Does anyone need another minute? Raise your hand. Okay. Then let's go ahead and take some shares. What I'm first curious about was, is anything on your list? Did anything on your list surprise you? Bye, Wendy. Nicole.
So one, just like you mentioned, a lot of times what we see in others is like what we'd like for ourselves. So it was kind of funny actually, because that came really quickly. And one of the things I wrote down that like I see in this community so far is like so many people are writers here. And I was like, oh, I would love to be a writer. But what's funny is like, I'm working on a book with a partner now, and I love writing. I've taken courses in writing. I consider myself a writer, but that like totally left my mind. And I was like, oh, like all these writers, and I'm not one of them. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And like, it took me writing it down to like, then add it to my own list. So that was like, really like, we don't even acknowledge what we're doing. We're ready to like, give that to someone else. So I found that interesting.
Isn't that interesting? And how often has everybody ever done that? Not realized that they're already doing the thing in parts that they want to be doing, like even if it's writing in your own journal, right? You're
not doing it well enough or long enough or exceptionally enough.
Absolutely.
It's never enough.
But there's a power in acknowledging what we're already doing. And I see writing as more than the act of writing. I see it as a way of seeing the world. It's a way of orienting towards the world, so that you are noticing, observing, and kind of analyzing and processing and figuring out how you want to share that in written words. So I bet there are also ways that you are a writer in your observation of the world. Tell me where I'm wrong.
I'd love to tell you where you're not wrong.
I thought that might be true. Would anyone else care to share something that surprised them? Or just share a desire you had? Or maybe one of the interests popped for you. Suze, I see you shaking your head. Is that a yes? What would you like to share?
Well, I'm going to piggyback off of Nicole because I believe in the last meeting or at one point I did share that I would like to write a book. And being in this community and meeting Elizabeth and all these other writers, you know, it's been so inspirational for me, and interesting that I've already got the title.
Do you want to share that with us?
Sure. The title is I Am Who I Am. And it's my journey, what I've been through, health challenges, struggles, moves, all sorts of things. But again, all coming back to self-love, self-care, and really, in truth, relationship building.
And there's such power in that I am. And there's such power in that declaring, I am all of who I am, and none of it is wrong, and is all exactly as it's meant to be. There's real power in that. And there are certainly a lot of wonderful people in this group that embody that and also help with the writing.
I love it. And I'm carving out the time to make that happen. Thank you so much to all of you.
And so that's what I suggest with these things, is that you take them as a hot track. Like in Africa, when you're tracking, you follow the hottest track, like the clearest path. And if you lose that hot track, you go back to where it was hottest. So like you retrace back to where you felt alive and engaged. And if that I am and that writing, Nicole, if those are what are the hottest track for you, you just follow them like a game of you're getting warmer. You know, you try this and you say, is this hot or is this cold? Because really following your interests, your desires, and your innate characteristics is really a very reliable map for your deep inner knowing. Who else would like to share a desire? Liz?
I mean, it's not a surprise. All my desires are things of like meaningful conversations, right? Like connecting with people. I love mysteries, and really all of our lives are kind of mysteries, right? Like learning about, like I love psychology. I love hearing what people have gone through and how they triumphed over that and keep going on what they've created from it. So I love that my interests and desires are what I get to do every day. Right. And it's also anytime I do anything like this, it's like being around art, being around nature, being in, right. So even being here in this conversation where that's literally what we're talking about is feeling very like sourced and perfect for me. And I always put in like delicious food, everything. It's so funny to me, like any kind of like my vision board always does it have food this year? I hope it does. It always has like whenever I envision what do you want, it's like, oh, yummy food.
Oh, I love that. Too. And so just deepening into those things, like I don't know if there's a way to bring love of food into your conversations. Maybe you're hosting conversations or dinners or, you know, but just getting really curious about how these different interests might go together, or how, you know, obviously your podcast is having conversations and exploring mysteries. You're obviously already doing that, but like, just get really curious. I invite you all to get curious how your interests, desires, and innate abilities might cross-pollinate. Like they don't all have to be separate. It's all you. So I thought of Africa as like a hobby or a travel or like not part of my business at one point. And it really wasn't until I tried to bring them all, until I realized I bring them all together, that so my love of travel, my love of being a good host and supporting other people, my love of transformation, my love of also great conversations, and Africa all come together in offering this retreat. But so just get really curious about how things that may seem disparate might have to do with each other. And Dr. Davia, I think we're out of time, but do you have anything? I saw your hand raised. Do you have anything you would like to say?
I love the way you bring it all together, and what this has brought up for me is that there's something that we usually do with Ladies Power Lunch that we haven't been doing since the pandemic, and that's retreats. I wrote on my list, I love retreats, just coming back from a retreat. And so maybe there's an opportunity. So I appreciate this conversation, because maybe the timing is right now for us to get back to doing retreats in the way that we used to.
That's beautiful. And I love retreats too. Well, thank you all for participating. I really appreciate your time, and it's just great to be here with y'all.
And so, Lisa, I know you have a container of support that you're providing for people who want to go deeper into this kind of conversation, and that it culminates in a retreat to Africa. Can you give us like the tiniest picture of what that
Tiny
looks like?
snapshot. Yes. So it's an invitation to step into something bigger than you may have ever dreamed possible. To learn the way, like, the reason we stop and start, the reason we push ourselves out there and then pull back, is because part of us is trying to keep us safe. And that part of us does not need the recrimination that Nicole was talking about, the like being stressed that you're stressed. What it needs is love. What it needs is compassion. That part of you needs love and compassion and support. And that is what the Sacred Creative Adventure in Africa is meant to do, is to be that love and support and help you transform the energy that is holding you back from receiving more. So we start with monthly tune in and trust calls, and we have a Facebook group where I'll be sharing tools, visualizations, creative exercises to help you love your parts and to regulate your nervous system. And then we go to Africa for 8 days, and 2 days at the Indian Ocean side, where we drop in and get really clear on that part of you that needs love and those patterns, how they show up for you. So for me, it shows up as shutting down, pulling back, not doing things. But I know for a lot of people, including some in this group, it looks like striving. It looks like do more, be more. I've got to do it all myself. And what's available when we love ourselves is in tuning in and trusting to something larger, to that source that your card is talking about. But it's really hard to access that when there's a kernel of not enough in us or unworthiness in us. That part of us that's trying to keep us safe, that needs love, is keeping us also for a very good reason, but accessing all of what the universe has in store for us. And so after the 2 days by the Indian Ocean, we'll spend 6 nights in the wilds of South Africa at Pinda Private Game Reserve. And we will continue the exercises, but just interspersed with game drives and safari and animal spotting. And we will use I will help you tune in and get lessons from the animals, or really feel into what it feels like to have that support and love of the universe. And we'll see what animals we can call in. And I really want to help you transform that energy so you can increase your capacity to receive. And so then there will be 2 follow-up calls afterwards. And it includes other forms of support, like complimentary aligned decision-making 101 class that you can either join live or you'll get the recordings. And also a 4-part video series on opening magic, on oneness, presence, energy, and nature, and how those things can help us drop in to that wordless oneness. So I think that is as snapshotty as I can go.
We want one last little piece of information. What's the
Please.
price point on this?
Yes, so the price point is 12,400, and that includes everything from the moment you arrive in Durban Airport, then your transportation, your food, your lodging, your taxes, your tips. You will,
But it also
completely
includes the program as well.
it's the entire program, costs that.
Okay, okay.
And it includes, that's the entire container of support. And on the ground, we have travel advisors who are good friends of mine who live in South Africa that can help you arrange your travel to Durban if you need it, and will be fully supporting us when they're there, arranging all our transportation, so that you are fully supported by Africa, by me, and by our travel facilitators.
Mhm.
And until March 5th, there is an early bird price of 10,400.
Oh,
And so that's a rather substantial discount. That's a $2,000 discount if you decide before March 5th. And I will be offering a Q&A session at 5 o'clock on February 28th to hear, mostly because I want to share more stories about Africa, tell you about the encounters I've had with the lions and baboons, and answer everybody's questions in more detail. And if you go to my website at lisadunforddickman.com, you can sign up for my newsletter. You could get all the retreat details. And you can also sign up for my newsletter, where I'll be listing the Q&A dates and sharing more Africa stories. There are a few on my website already. I talk about walking to my room and being surrounded by a whole troop of 26 baboons outside my window.
that's wonderful. So Lisa, what I'm going to do is I'm going to post this in our Ladies Power Lunch group and also on our Ladies Power Lunch YouTube channel. And I'm going to invite you to just drop your links below. And that way, people who want to connect with you, they'll be able to do that. But it sounds like an amazing container. And you guys go over in October. It's when you're going?
Yes, it's October. So the container starts the moment you say yes. The face group book group is live as soon as you say yes, and our first monthly call will be in March. And they will continue. The retreat itself is October 12th to the 20th in 2023.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Great. Oh, let's